Thank you very much.
Thank you, Logan. Welcome this afternoon. Thank you, Erica, for joining us today. So I know that you have a presentation that we're going to start with, and then we will, after the presentation, I have a couple questions for her that we've discussed, and we will be opening the floor up to questions today for anybody that has any. So thank you, and thank you for joining us today.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for having me here. I know that courthouse security is a hot topic. So just for a little bit of context, I took on this role in February last year, so it's been an interesting first year for me as well, as everybody can imagine. There's been a number of security events that have happened throughout the past year, which has really put a focus on courthouse security in the province. We've also been having active conversations about courthouse security across Canada because we are noticing a significant increase in incidents, not only even in physical security, but even virtually in Zoom. We're seeing, I don't know if anybody's had the joyous experience of experiencing a Zoom bomber, but those have been interesting and disruptive, and we continue to work through a lot of the challenges that we're facing. One of the things that isn't in my notes here, but for those of you across the province, you may be working at a courthouse facility that is pretty old. The average age of our courthouses in the province are 75 years. So with that comes a lot of facilities issues, but some of them are heritage sites, which become additional challenges in creating the type of security that we want to have in place. And there's added complexities, which I'm going to go through a little bit. So I'm going to hope this works. There we go. So one of the things that I did want to highlight is the roles and responsibilities for courthouse security. This is a bit of a complex situation because under the Community Safety and Policing Act, responsibility for court security actually lies with the local police services. So the safety and security of the judiciary staff and justice participants, it's a high priority for us, but we also have limited ability to enforce certain elements of security. We work with the municipal police forces in the jurisdictions, whether it's the municipal police, the First Nations police, or the OPP, whoever is the police of jurisdiction, to assess the security needs of the individual courthouse. We also look at it on a case-by-case basis. So where there may be specific cases that are deemed to be high risk, we'll work with them as well to make sure that there's additional security provided for either in custody inmates or within the courtroom itself. We have a bit of a limited role that includes covering the capital costs, so dealing with the facility itself and making sure that the appropriate equipment is in place. So magnetometers where the police are willing to use them, and any of the physical requirements, whether it's plexiglass, prisoners' boxes, those types of things, we make sure that they are in place, functioning, and working as intended. So we have to work very closely with the local police in making sure that security is continued to be a focus. One of the things that we have actively been working on over the past couple of years is making some security investments. So you may have seen in some of your courthouses, there has been an increase in the physical security. We've invested over $250 million in courthouse security since 2018, with 2,100 security projects that were in place. These have been completed across the province already. We're currently actively working on an additional 70 projects that are underway, representing about $168 million. We are focused right now on delivering security upgrades in communities across the province, including the single point of entry, enhanced screening facilities, and additional security systems and duress alarms, as well as improvements to holding cells. What's not in here is, again, maybe maybe as a result of a specific incident that some of you may be aware of, we're also doing a province-wide upgrade of all prisoner boxes so that individuals can't kind of break out of them. So they will be mandatory standardized plexiglass, shackle bars, and locks on all the prisoner boxes across the province. So we're starting to roll that piece out as well. Together, all of this is working to support kind of a risk-informed process to upgrade security. We are continually requesting additional funds. We know that there are further security upgrades that can be done to further support and improve the security. We are looking at health and safety issues. You know, some of the things that we're looking at continue to be some pilots with regards to, you know, health monitors in holding cells to identify if anybody may be in distress in a holding cell that may be not caught on video. So using some intelligent technology in those ways. So we're piloting some of those across the province. Ultimately, we're hoping to make these security improvements to make sure that all justice participants, whether it's, you know, counsel, staff, victims, accused, anybody who's attending the court really feel safe, including all of you. So going a little further into the single point of entry project, because this has been a significant focus as of last summer. We've currently, in conjunction with the police, been able to implement single point of entry at 96% of our base courts and satellite courts across the province. This does not include our First Nations communities that are fly-in courts, because that's a broader conversation with the communities to have acceptance from the community itself. So we're continuing to work with them as well. We are working to expand the single point of entry at the remaining base courts and satellite courts throughout the province to make it 100%. We did receive an additional $57 million over 10 years as last year, and we're continuing to roll this out to address 14 base courts. So right now, those are active projects that are underway. So you will start to see some of these. Some of them in our heritage facilities, we're actually building out separate entrances on the front of some of our heritage buildings to allow and accommodate some of these locations. Each site will include a single point of entry, a magnetometer, or handheld wands, depending on the request from the police, a baggage scanner, and a search table. So this should improve. One of the things that we are working on with the local police is how the bar identifies themselves. So there's a little bit of discrepancy. Some of the bar is like, yeah, I don't mind being screened, it makes me safer. Some don't want the hassle. So we are working out what's going to be the best approach for that. But ultimately, these improvements are going to reinforce the courthouses having full security, screening, accessible front entrances, and improved walkways to streamline and strengthen the safety. So that's my presentation. I will stop there because that's not my presentation. And I think there's a few questions that we can go over, but I think after that, if there's questions from the audience, I'm happy to address any as well.
So as we know, after our access to the courthouses for all licensees is an issue, what are things that are being looked at there and to make it more accessible for everyone?
So one of the things that I'm undertaking is a system-wide courthouse security review that's going to establish consistent standards. Right now, the after-hours access is determined by the local police force. They are determining whether they are going to enforce, who they are going to allow. We're also examining the use of identification cards to make it easier for counsel who may be in the courthouse after hours to make it easier to identify themselves and make that a little simpler for the police forces.
And with that, we know that court doesn't always end on time.
Yes.
I'm sure we've all been in a courthouse after hours. When we're rolling out security concerns, how are those types of issues being dealt with so that if the court is still in session, they cannot be directing people to leave a building where you're actively required to be?
Correct. So the police services generally are informed when court is running after hours and will not clear the courthouse at that time. They're normally understanding of that. We have had further discussions with the Durham Police because I know that this was the specific incident that triggered some of these conversations, and they're also undertaking a formalized review of their after-hours processes as well.
So you did touch on searching going into the courthouses. Lawyers, of course, have separate concerns about potentially briefcases wanting to be searched by police and the lack of understanding that solicitor-client privilege extends over that briefcase. What is being put in place, perhaps education or otherwise, to deal with some of those concerns?
So we are starting to work with the police in, like I said, potentially identifying an access card that gives the defense bar access without screening to allow for some of that, or potentially just the baggage scanners. Yeah. So baggage scanners, which we're hoping to have in place at all places, will allow the safety and security so that there's no weapons in any of the baggage, which is their primary concern, but still maintains the confidentiality of any records or items that may be in the briefcase. So we're hoping that that will address, but in the interim, while we're waiting for that to fully be rolled out, again, we are looking at potential for access cards. The logistics of access cards becomes a little bit more challenging because, people don't necessarily attend only one courthouse, and, who is available. And from what my understanding is, your LSO cards no longer have your pictures on them,
correct,
which becomes a bit of a challenge, and are no longer automatically provided to you, your bar cards, that there's now a fee associated with them, and not everybody has them. So again, I'm examining all of those options to see what's really going to work best, and I'm always welcome to have feedback. If you want to centralize any feedback to me as I go through this court security review, I'm happy to take your feedback on what you think is going to work best for you as well.
So as we're aware, sometimes things happen in courthouses, and generally there's processes in place. Maybe there's a alarm that goes off indicating there's an incident in the courthouse. There was a fire alarm sometimes. There are areas of the courthouses that don't necessarily get those alarms. So whether it's the library that doesn't have the panic button or the library that doesn't hear the announcement that there's a hold in place as a result of something in the courthouse or out of the courthouse, how are we addressing those types of issues?
So this has actually been raised in our pre-consultation, but hadn't been raised previously, I will say. But the current standards for the alarm systems and PA systems are for high security areas, and they're mainly for the public. The law libraries currently are established as a medium security, so therefore they don't have them. Neither do things like the judicial quarters and those things, because it's deemed to be disruptive to have PAs, announcements going off. But we will be, again, looking at how we can better inform when there is emergency services like a hold and secure, a fire alarm, that not disrupting the quiet space that you want in the library with day-to-day PA announcements of calling people to attend a certain courtroom, but allow for the emergency services to come through. So that's one thing that I'm looking into. The duress buttons, similarly, they're in some locations and not others, partially because the duress button has only been provided where there's a full-time librarian at their work desk, and not for general counsel, because the belief is that it's not generally accessible to the public. It's generally for only counsel attending in there, and it's considered to be a safe environment. If there is concern around that approach, I can definitely take that feedback back, but that's been the logic to date.
Okay. So if you have a courthouse that your librarian doesn't have a security button, please let us know. That's why the issue was raised. Those touched on the questions that I wanted to raise and issue and start as a starting point. Are there any questions from the floor that people would like to raise around the courthouse security issues?
Not necessarily a question, but a lot of some commentary. Betty Dykstra. I'm the library manager in the York Regional Law Association. In Newmarket, we have always had, as long as I have been there, we've always had, excuse me, the magnetronics. We had this. They changed it to a single entrance access point a number of years ago. And I thought I was going to have a big argument about getting access for the lawyers. We actually have security cards that are issued to our members. We put their pictures on there. It's got a lovely picture of the courthouse. It can be used in Barrie because I've gone to visit Barrie and I can bypass security, so it is sort of recognized. We are in the middle of an upgrade to our whole security system, which has caused a few little glitches because there have been questions. And just recently we had our lawyers have access 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week, and then 24 hours access. After hours or before that, they check in with a full-time security guard who sits at the front desk and sign in, and then they have 24 hours access to the library and the lounge, which is the only place that they have access to, and that's the only place that they're going to. So just recently, they had to do a whole sort of investigation to meet with the Justice Sector Security and Emergency Management Branch to determine the most appropriate way. So for the last couple of weeks, we've had their after-hours access sort of cut off to the lawyers, which was great for like our board that met after hours and couldn't get in and out of the library if they left those places, the lounge. So I was going to bring that up today and say they're still looking into this, so if anybody has any suggestions. But then 5 minutes ago, I got a nice little email from them saying, they will be reinstating the parameters for the association to align with the parameters in place prior to the new system integration, which is really, really good. But just like I say, we produce our own cards. We send them down we have so many members that it was like, we just can't send them down to court security to have a new card. So what we do is we print them in-house. We send them out to get activated. So they get activated usually within the same day. So that may be some solution to some issues. So
That sounds wonderful. I may reach out to you.
Thunder Bay does something similar. They have a courthouse pass with a photo and like codes on the back. If there's a code that's called in the building, it will tell you what those codes mean. But Kenara's not that high tech.
I think after everything that happened in Durham this year, there were some concerns, obviously, about profiling of lawyers for racialized lawyers.
Yes.
Just wanted to ask about that and how that's being considered for future safety planning in courthouse security.
So I think I'm going to have to not comment. Ultimately, because it's the police who intervened in that situation, and it wasn't necessarily ministry staff. It's a policing potential issue there. It has been referred to the York Regional Police. York Regional Police?
Yes.
Yeah. It's now been referred to York Regional Police, who are doing an active criminal investigation on that. So they are taking it very seriously with regards to potentially the racial profiling components of it. But I know from the ministry perspective, we try to be open and encompassing, and that's where I'm also taking a look at the access cards as a way to mitigate any of that racial profiling. Because if you're wearing a card, it shouldn't matter what your race, culture, religion would be. So.
Hi, Curtis Pinero, Central East Rep. I just wanted to follow up on that good question with a question to you. Has the province considered providing kind of a centralized training program for the numerous police services, the special constables, the police that are actually like doing the security at the courthouses? Because I think that would be a really beneficial thing to have one program. You need to take this before you can actually fit that role.
Unfortunately, we can't, again, because the responsibility for the provision of security is at the police level. It's their determination. We do work with them very closely. The group that you referred to, Justice Sector Services Emergency Management, actually reports into me directly, so I work very closely. We do provide training to our judiciary and other participants in the court, and we also have regular contact with the police services. but they ultimately determine their staffing requirements. So we can't tell them that they have to have a minimum security requirement. What I am working on, like I said, is a minimum court security standard that will apply to all police services is the goal. That will establish a minimum level of security dependent on the type of courthouse that's in place. And we'll take a look at what those requirements will be. So I will say, stay tuned. I'm hoping to have a positive update on that work, in the near future, but it is a work underway.
Just a quick question. Michelle Garrett's from Lambton Law Association in Sarnia. Is there a policy in place that prevents the law associations from having a copy of these safety and security manuals that are used in the building?
Yes, and again, that it's because it's considered to be a security risk to release the plans.
So being an employee in the building,
Even
as
our
a
court
tenant,
staff do not have them.
in terms of procedures when there is an emergency, it would be a good idea to have, even if it's a smaller manual without all of the detail, to have some guidelines.
We will work with the individual courthouses. What we have done for the judiciary is we've created little placemats that give them some guidance, so we can look to release some of those placemats to other participants in the courthouses so that they are aware of kind of where they should be exiting, whose guidance they should be following. Ultimately, the individual police service becomes the incident commander in the event of a situation, and they're the ones who you have to defer any actions to. So, but we will look into providing those placemats that we've created for the judiciary as well.
Just having been in a bomb threat situation and sitting in my library and having police enter my space and say, "What are you doing here? The building's been evacuated," and not being told that the building's being evacuated or what's going on, it's rather disturbing that I'm not allowed to know what's going on in the building I work in.
I agree.
Second to that, is there a policy in place with regard to after hours in terms of the companies you're hiring for security when there are contractors in the building and there are contractors wandering the building without security guards?
So there should be an escort after hours.
It's not happening.
So I will look into that. BGIS, who is the building's maintenance providers, are supposed to be escorting any contractors within the building and providing that service. So we're dealing with a number of issues with BGIS, I will say.
That's an understatement.
That's a whole other conversation, but this will be something that I will actively follow up on because that is a risk to me as well. So,
Yeah. Our gentleman.
Lee Holstead, Durham Region Law Association, Vice Chair, Ontario Courthouse Libraries Association. Regarding the duress buttons, if a courthouse library is in need of one, who pays for it?
we would.
Okay.
Okay. Terry.
I'm also from Lambton with Michelle. Why would the lawyers who are officers of the court and we're called to a higher threshold in our duties and responsibilities to the court, to the courthouse per se, why would we as an association, the board, not have access? I understood what Michelle's question was and your answer, but I'm just taking it to a different level. I'll go sit down.
I'm sorry,
I'm the
no, I'm not
troublemaker in the
sure
room.
if I fully understand the question.
Well, you were saying to Michelle
Yep.
why she can't have a copy, but why can the board and the lawyers, because the lawyers are on the board, why can we not?
They don't have a copy, the judiciary don't have a copy of the security plan. It's become an issue after some security incidents because they've raised concerns as well. So all that they've been given are basically, steps that they can follow. They do not have the security plans either. It is not released to anybody. The police services are not willing to. So what we've done is to provide a little bit of emergency, steps to provide some information, and I'm happy to share those.
Police services may not be willing to release them, but we are officers as well. So why not?
George.
Hi. Following up on Lee Holstead's question from just a moment ago, we've been advised by ministry staff that local law associations are responsible for paying for panic buttons. So if the ministry will cover that, who do we follow up with?
So as part of my courthouse security review, that's one of the things that we're actively looking at, is where those panic buttons need to be in place. So this is something that I'm going to be implementing. So if we believe that there needs to be a panic button in every law association library, then we will get those installed.
Okay, but, sorry? I can follow up with you directly?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So as some of you may be aware, if there's a power, as we all know, the heating and air conditioning is not controlled locally in our courthouses, but the doors unlock and lock remotely as well. So when the power goes out, why isn't that being addressed? You're either getting locked in or locked out of buildings. And that's not actually well known. I know this because I got locked out of a courthouse in the middle of the day. So when you're in Sioux Lookout, you're like, I can't get back into court. And the way our courthouses are set up, security is not at the front. So are things like that being looked at when we're looking at security plans?
They are. Yes.
So just so you know, power goes out, so does the front door relocks. Don't try and get back in. There's some oddities about some of our courthouses. I don't know if, fun things like that.
Yes, and some of those are mostly in the newer courthouses, I think. Yeah. Some of the old courthouses, I know I work out of the Aurelia courthouse a couple days a week for anybody who's visited that courthouse, and it still has the old actual keys to unlock the doors.
The turn.
So we don't have that problem, but
there you go.
We also have the push open doors and no air conditioning at all. So.
Oh well, yeah. Well, I mean, they tell me Kenora has air conditioning. I just don't actually believe them. It's one of the lovely heritage buildings. It's very beautiful. It's got a lovely waterfront access. It's just hotter than Hades in the summer.
My question was just, are we building in some questions about accessibility in with the security side? Because I know, for example, one of the courthouses I deal with frequently is Cayuga. Small building, old building, doesn't have an elevator to the second floor. And I've had the joyous experience of a client having a medical emergency on the second floor and no easy way of getting the person down with or without EMS. And I from a security perspective, I think that should be a concern as well.
Is that the one that only has, it's one courtroom that only has stair access, but there's elevators elsewhere in the building? Because I know there's one
there are no
courthouse.
elevators anywhere in the building. But even just generally even if it's not necessarily like a security concern from a somebody's gonna assault you perspective, it's a security concern from a, I guess my client's out of luck if there's a fire or something like that. And I've talked to a few people about it, and there just doesn't seem to be a lot of answers on who's gonna advocate or what's gonna be done. And
I'm happy to advocate for that. I know we are trying to build in accessibility features in any of the new courthouses. OCJT is one of them, and we're actually working with the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility on piloting some of the new evacuation chairs where there are no elevator, access in a fire, in event of a fire. So we are going to be looking at, whether or not there's applicability to roll some of those evacuation chairs to some of our other courthouses where situations like that may be an issue. That doesn't address the day-to-day of being able to access a courtroom on another floor. But again, with me still being relatively new, I'm still learning all of the courtrooms. So I've taken note of this, and it's something that I'll take a look at.
yes, awesome, thank you so much.
No problem.
Michelle's got another question for us.
Sorry. With regard to accessibility, we're in a situation where our courthouse has an accessible button at our front door
Yep.
to allow someone with mobility issues to get in the building. But once they get inside the building, there are no buttons in the building for washrooms or anything in the building. And
I really don't want to go into all the joys
No.
of the Newmarket
No.
Courthouse, because if I had my
this is
my
a-
plan, I would burn it down. But
okay, I'm not in Newmarket, but we have an accessibility issue with a particular lawyer who is in the courthouse on a regular basis and has mobility issues, and she can get through the front door, but she can't go anywhere else in the building because pulling a door open is difficult for her, and the washrooms are difficult for her.
okay, I'll take a look at that one. We are doing some active work in the Newmarket Courthouse, and this is Newmarket, right?
No.
No, you said this is
Lambton.
Lambton. Sorry, that. The Newmarket one is a bit of my my pet peeve. I'm working on it. Yeah.
Well, that
But-
was a option that was executed, that was used in Wapakika, so we don't have court there right now.
No.
So as we all know, I come from the Northwest, which unfortunately was Erica's first security incident. So we're all likely aware of the incident in Wapakika last year that caused the first security concerns and made Erica's job much more difficult. When we're looking at rolling security out, when we're not in static courthouses, we're in a variety of different buildings, sometimes the buildings are changed. What types of factors are you looking at, particularly because, like, who's there for security is going to change, but the building we're in every time changes.
So, is this in reference to some of the flying courts?
But flying courts, or I also, I practice in the Northwest where not only do I fly to court, but I go to Ignace, and we're currently holding court. I think we're back into the hotel because the other buildings under renovation. I missed the days of the Legion. There was a bar in the back. We have some fun court locations.
So we actually have right now a Northern Justice strategy that I'm actively working on, which will look to address more long-term agreements in flying court communities with appropriate facilities and lease locations and agreements with the communities. We're also looking at some potential solutions for Ignace, Marathon, Kenora, Fort Francis, a couple others that
Grady
I can't
River,
think of off the top of
Atoka.
my head. But I do recognize that the northern communities have not had the same level of investment as we've seen in some of our southern communities. So we're actively trying to rectify that.
And when you're making those decisions, are you thinking about the fact that when we need to meet with clients during criminal trials, it'd be real nice to have a room to do that in,
We are.
or space at all?
Sorry, I just wanted to say quickly, I've been stewing on it since my colleagues asked some very thoughtful questions about the racialized issues and, a very recent, very significant impact on the legal community and how one of our colleagues was treated. And I appreciate that I'm not asking you to be accountable for the entirety of what occurred, of course, but from our perspective, Meg is an involved party in that, and there needs to be accountability there. And I think there was also a very thoughtful and gentle follow-up, and I wouldn't be able to sit comfortably and be okay with how you responded to both of those. And again, not at you personally, but to say, well, if there's an investigation, well, that's them, not us. It's us, all of us. And for our colleagues to feel safe and for us as representatives of these associations to come to these opportunities to be at the table with people like you, I don't think to just pass the buck there from something that was so significant and so traumatizing, particularly for that licensee. I think we need a little bit more from Meg on that. And I'm not trying to belabor the point, but my colleagues asked some very thoughtful questions and I don't think they were accurately or adequately addressed.
I can't comment on an active investigation.
No, of
that's
course
something
not.
that I'm, prohibited against. I know that safety and security is the utmost importance for everybody, and I'm actively doing everything I can to manage that. I cannot control the actions of individuals, and those
Nobody's
are being...
asking for that. Nobody's asking for that. But
Yeah.
for Meg to just say, well, we didn't do that and it's not us, a little bit more to say that we're working to support the more vulnerable members of the bar and other licensees or training or whatever. I'm not saying I have the solution. I'm just saying when a question like that is posed so thoughtfully that deals with racialized and important issues to our community, it's our job to bring that to you. And whether or not you feel like, you know, aren't accountable, that it's the hosting space, it's us as a legal community, and I'll leave it at that. I would encourage you to think of maybe a little bit more of a thoughtful way to address that in the future, because it's a really important issue to everybody in this room, and hopefully Meg as well, question mark, I don't know, but
It is.
thank you for hearing me out, and I'm not trying to, I couldn't sit there and be okay with how that was dealt with, so
No,
thanks.
and that's fair. Like, I will say, we are doing everything within our control to be able to address security for everybody. That includes our single point of entry, that includes working with the police services. I can't enforce what the police do and how they train their officers.
No, nobody's asking that. It's just the way these important questions are addressed, I think, should be with a little bit more intention and thoughtfulness behind it, because it was very significant. And I thank my colleagues for raising it to you directly, because I think it's important as well. Anyway, I'm not going to belabor the point anymore, but I just couldn't not say something.
As you heard, Terry Brandon from Lambton, I'm on the board. And as you heard, it's an emotional topic, it's a sensitive topic. Some people are fearful, and what happened, we all agree, should never have happened. And I just don't want you to go away from here feeling that you were pointed out and blamed or shamed or attacked here by the responses in any way. Thank you for the engagement. I appreciate what was just said. It is a sensitive topic, and I know you know that. Thank you for being here.
Very much, and I can tell you, for me, myself, being a woman in the justice system itself, it hit me very hard. You know, I'm not racialized, but I do know, you know, some of what was experienced by that individual could happen to anybody, and so I understand, and like I said, everything that's within our control we're doing, but I can't, you know, I can't police the police at this point, so.
But we do know that all of the courthouses have security committees.
Yes.
How does FOLA get a seat at the table?
The security committees are managed by the local police service, so we are members of that as well, but ultimately I would say if anybody would like to attend a local courthouse security meeting, there just needs to be a request. Right now, the list of attendees should be the police, that they're the ones who host and run those committees, the local crown, the local judiciary, the local bar is welcome, so anybody who wants to have a representative sit at those local courthouse committees, security committee meetings are welcome to do so, and all they need to do is reach out to the police service at the local courthouse to say, I would like to sit at the committee as a representative of the local bar. The victim service organizations are welcome as well as our court services staff.
And Karen, I would answer that, at least in Lambton, back when I was president, we did have a chair on that committee. So maybe we do now, maybe we don't anymore, but we always did. I was it. Very, very good committee to get involved with.
I think the problem is it's not consistent as to whether or not we're welcome at the table.
And you should be welcome, and if for somebody does approach the local police and you are told no, let me know and I will rectify.
Hi, my name is Kelly Elliott. I'm with the Lincoln County Law Association. I'm the executive director for the library and the association. I will be contacting you about that because in St. Catharines, we had for decades been part of that committee, and as of a couple years ago, even though they were meeting in our space, decided that we were to be kicked out. It was absolutely galling. And by the way, they're no longer meeting in our space. My question about courthouse security is a bit weird. One of the elements we find in St. Catharines, and we do have security at the door and cards and 24-hour access, Bit weird with the new management company for the maintenance in the building. They're a nightmare, you know, things taking months to repair, like an elevator or a washroom, etc. But one of the patterns that has happened is the local police person who is under some kind of suspension or disciplinary action, where they have to pull him from the road so they're not dealing with the public. They're sticking them on the doors at the courthouse. And we've had a couple of pretty terrifying incidences. One for me personally, that literally on a Friday afternoon, I was done and was terrified to walk back into court, into that building on the Monday morning. If we're getting the road cops or the people with mental health issues, anger issues, PTSD, and you're saying to them, hey, keep your gun and go deal with all the people who walk into a courthouse, it's a recipe for disaster. It's going to be a problem, and it has been. So I'm wondering if there's an element from Meg that can set parameters around who the police can put on the door. We shouldn't be the collection of bad boys and girls and drunk cop drivers and all the other people that we get, and I'm sure that's echoed.
I'll take that back. I can't commit to anything at the moment, but it's something I'll definitely look into and speak further with both my partners at the Ministry of the Solicitor General with regards to how corrective action is managed, as well as our municipal police services.
Thank you.
I've covered all the questions that we had set up in advance.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions from the floor today?
So I have said a few times today that if anybody wants to contact me, please do so. So my email address is Erica, ERIKA, .Cotter, COTTER, @ontario.ca. So if you do,
or reach out to me. I have the email address. We can share it, as does Ian. We've been in correspondence clearly before today.
Erica, ERIKA, .Cotter, COTTER, @ontario.ca.
Okay. Well, not seeing any more questions from the floor. I thank Erica for coming today and facing what can never be fun, a group of lawyers that have lots of questions, particularly on such an issue that's so important to so many of us and our colleagues, and making sure that we address those issues. And I thank you for taking the time today to meet with us and to answer those questions, and to be willing to answer those questions going forward. Thank you so much.